glad you're here. I wanted to talk to you a little bit about memoir. Memoir is a great genre for teaching adolescent writing and self-introspection, but there are some problems with it too that I think should be considered before taking up a unit assignment on reading memoirs and eventually creating memoirs. Now, of course, memoir is a great genre for students because since they're such egotistical beings at this age, they really want to get a lot of themselves out. They want to talk about themselves. They want other people to understand them. These are the central concerns of students at this age. But there isn't much room for community building. And this is a problem, of course, from a more socially progressive view of education. So, what I'd like to talk about is ways that we can expand the genre of memoir writing to include a more community-based focus. Why don't you come along with me? Well, memoir is a great genre for students to write because it gives them a chance to say something about themselves. It doesn't allow them to say very much about the community or to figure out where their place in the community might be. Of course, the problem is that students need to exist in the world. They need to be members of a community, and they need to feel that their personal experience fits into the community. It's a dialectic that needs to happen, and memoir doesn't often allow for that. Students need to be able to read other students' memoirs, read other people's stories, and fit them into their own story. So I'd like to talk about a couple of ways that maybe we can create a project that does all these things.
There are some things about memoir that sort of disgust me.
Of course, it's important for students to begin with reading memoirs. This is where their understanding of the genre is going to begin. So a text like Maya Angelou's I Know Why the Caged Bird Sings, or Frederick Douglass's Narrative of the Life of Frederick Douglass. These are canonical texts, but they also can teach students about individual experience that doesn't follow sort of a normal everyday path. So you begin with these texts, and the important question to ask students first is, why are they writing this? Both texts have a great place to begin because in the very first chapters, they're addressing the theme that they'll be working with throughout their entire memoir. So now that we've established thematic elements for students, I think it's important for the teacher, you, me, any of us, to address why these thematic elements are important to the author. Why is the author writing this memoir? This gets to the heart of intention and the reason that memoirs are important. What is Douglass trying to do in the world with his narrative? What is Maya Angelou trying to say? What idea is she trying to get across? And this is perfect for the student who's about to write a memoir. They need to think about these types of things because the question is, what story will they use? How is it important? Why will anyone care? And most importantly, what do you have to offer? So once students have decided what's important about the story they're going to tell, they just need to write it. Now I'm not going to go into writing memoirs and teaching students to write memoirs here. The literature is immense on it, there's a lot of different approaches, and you should find one that works best for you and your students. Just look it up. Now, the important thing is that there is now a next step, the community building element. Now the students have already thought about how their story fits into the world, but now it's important for them to start to think about how it fits in with other people's stories. How do we have a lot of stories that, by the way, we've got to hurry. How can we have a lot of stories that fit in together? How can students find things that, how can students find things that other people have said that bring more meaning to their story? And how can they create a broader sense of the importance of their story by integrating it with those memoirs. So students are then put into groups, and those students read each other's memoirs, so first of all they can have an idea about what a memoir that somebody else writes would look like. And also it gives them a chance to read somebody else's stories. Seeing what's important to somebody else might give them an idea about what's important about their memoir. And the important thing to do next is to have them decide what it is that's important about all of their memoirs. Is there any common ground? Is there shared elements? Are there questions asked by Memoir A that Memoir B can answer? Is there consensus that can be built? And they're going to begin to see that their memoirs create a community, that there's a broader sense of idea, that they're understanding the world together. By understanding the world more concretely together, these students have developed something that they didn't have before, a sense that their memoirs are part of a larger story. It's not just their story, it's part of the story. And this is important because it allows them to be autonomous individuals, but starts to ask them to recognize what broader community they are a part of, or how they're a part of communities they might not have even known existed. So you see, the important thing about this assignment is that it allows students to begin to imagine different communities. As a possible end project, they could write up a new memoir that encompasses all of the group's memoirs so that they literally have created a larger narrative. That's my favorite way to think of the assignment. Another great way would be for them to write an analysis. They've now written a creative paper, then they write a more standard analytical paper talking about how the process went along, describing the different constituent elements, and then telling you what this means. So they're addressing the so what question also. This is a good way to make the unit very rounded out, to have lots of different elements. And I find sometimes that students enjoy writing a bit about what it is they've been doing, telling you why you should be impressed with their writing. And you should. Thanks for listening. Now, the people living here are probably going to be around any second, so I'll see you up the road.
Phenomena. Phenomena. Phenomena.